Lock the door before somebody bursts in on me.
Hmm. I kicked everybody out of the house today, so I should be good.
How's your daughter?
Oh, she is about to be 17 in a couple weeks.
Oh my, wait a minute. How? When did
Mhm.
that
So
happen?
I have a full-on driver.
Oh, wow.
She's getting ready to compete in Miss Alabama's Teens pageant this weekend. So our house is a madhouse right now. She's
Oh,
gone to her last and final talent rehearsal in Trustville. So my mom took her today. Um, so we're in full pageant swing right now. So prayers are
oh.
appreciated.
I'm sure she's going to be the most gorgeous one there because her mom is always gorgeous.
You're so sweet. Well, my credit card says that she better be the most gorgeous one there too. Let me tell you that. But no, wardrobe is all together. I'll have to send you some pictures.
Yeah, many other.
Please do.
So here we go. Everybody's starting to get in.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone.
Let me tip this too a little bit.
I'm still on mute
Make
now.
sure your phones are on mute, unless you just want to pop in and say hello. Okay, it's right at 12, and so we're going to go ahead and kick this meeting off. Hello, everyone, and thanks you for joining us. My name is Sierra Belser, and I'm the president this year for Sherman Montgomery. And we are so excited to kick off this event with our first speaker, Delecia McIntyre, who's the manager of talent administration. I have to say that 3 times at Hyundai Motor Manufacturing of Alabama. We're so glad that she's kicking off this event. This is the first time that Sherman Montgomery has ever done anything like this. So we're really, really excited and wanted to make sure that we start this month off with a bang and celebrate Women's History Month. So thank you, Delecia, so much for agreeing to be our speaker for week 1.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Delecia, we're going to allow you to kind of do a little self-introduction. Just tell us how you ended up at HMMA and a little bit more about what your role is there.
Sure, sure. My husband and I relocated here probably 20 years ago from Georgia. It was a vision of his that we were supposed to be here in Montgomery. And once we got here, I thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and I almost ran myself crazy, including my husband and my newborn child. So I decided staying at home was not what I wanted to do. So I put my resume back out there. My role in Georgia was recruiting. So I put my resume back out there and actually landed a contract position with Hyundai, really about 19 years ago. From there, I worked my way up from a contractor role into my current talent administration manager position, where I've been here with Hyundai full time for 18 years now.
Amazing. So, you and I have a long relationship. We're almost 6 years old now. Um, from helping you and your contract labor out at Hyundai. And through that relationship, I got to know Delecia very, very well. Through good and bad. So we've had a very good relationship over the years, but I can honestly say that her heart for her employees and for not only the contingent staff, but her Hyundai employees is amazing. And it's been a great relationship to have and great to watch you completely transform the whole atmosphere out at Hyundai. So very, very excited to have you today.
Well, I appreciate
So
the words. Thank you.
absolutely. So I allowed Delecia to kind of cheat a little bit. So I gave her the questions beforehand so I wouldn't give her anything that she was not prepared for. We're going to open up with the questions, but I also wanted you guys to be able to ask questions in the chat. We will have a little bit of a question answer period towards the end. So if you want to put your questions in the chat as we go along, about 15 minutes before the session is over, I will start reading those questions in the chat. But welcome everyone, and let's get started.
Okay.
So Delecia, question number 1 for you is, how do you actively support and mentor other women in the workplace?
Okay. So as you're gonna soon find out, I'm a bit of a storyteller. So I like to kind of provide some examples of things that have happened in my past. So I'll start off by saying it is by leading by example. When I was growing up, I spent quite a bit of time with my grandmother. And we grew up in Covington, Georgia, very country town. And I watched her a lot. I watched her interactions with the insurance man that she would pay, down to my uncle, to my mom, to the people that she washed and folded clothes for. And her interactions was always different with each one, but it was so appropriate. And I think for me, what happened, a bit of me, just a bit of her just became a part of me as I grew into my adult life, where was always mindful of someone kind of paying attention to me. So one way I try to do this by mentoring others is just by leading by example. I remember once years ago, I was on a trip for one of the companies I've worked for, and I was in a leadership role, and I actually had to handle a situation, and I mean handle a situation. It was in the midst of a number of people that were watching, so I couldn't get to a private area because it just needed to be handled right then and there. And I could just recall in my mind just going over facial expression, watch your tone, be professional, people, just make sure you're doing all those things, but still handle the situation where it's done in a professional manner. And I did, and I went on. And later on in that day, a person approached me, and she came to me and she said, "I want you to know I paid attention to how you actually handled that situation." And she said, "I don't know if I would have ever done it that way." And I've actually kept in contact with this person. So she's now way beyond me in her leadership roles. And she tells me all the time when she needs to handle a situation, she thinks about how I actually did it back then. So I would say, just be an example for others that are watching. We live in a time where everybody is watching, with social media and cell phones, things of that nature. I would also say flexibility and understanding and supporting uh, my team and people that I have worked with in my past. Um, when I started, my children were, so when I moved here to Montgomery, as I mentioned, it was me, my husband, and two little boys. And it was just me primarily. And I had to really, really figure out a lot of things. So flexibility was not a big thing. So I really had to run out of this building sometime with my feet on fire, trying to get to a soccer game, trying to get to a baseball game, trying to figure it out. Um, Almost feeling guilty for getting there late with my kids, or sometimes feeling guilty for even having to ask to leave. So I was just a ball of guilt a lot of times. So when I moved into my management roles, that feeling didn't quite leave me. It actually kind of stuck with me, and I wanted those that worked for me and worked in my team to not feel bad about asking to go see your kid in a play or go make this final baseball game, because those things are important. And time goes by so fast. Before you know it, you'll be an empty nester like myself, and you don't want to miss those precious moments. So if that means I need to stay late to support my team so they can get to those moments, or just some schedules or something like that, I believe in that flexibility in supporting not only women, but men in the workforce as well. And just being a listening ear. It's been a lot of times when I have been pulled into a conference room, and I'm just going to listen. We it may be some tears shed, it may be some words said, but I'm just going to listen. Sometimes I think we have so much going on that we just don't have anybody to just listen. So I kind of serve as a listening ear sometimes. I think my team knows, whatever's going on with you personally is going to stick with me. It's not going anywhere else. Um, so I just kind of sum it up, being an example, for my team, to kind of mentor them that way. Kind of understanding the need for flexibility and a work-life balance to help them, and being a listening ear as well.
You hit on a lot of great points. First of all, having control of the situations that we get put in, because of course, women are always viewed as just being overly emotional,
Yeah.
which we are not. So I can completely resonate with you when you said that, you have to handle certain situations with grace, but also make sure that you handle the situation. Um, Being in leadership as a female, we're always being looked at, and they're just literally waiting on us to have a complete breakdown or cry. And so we always have to make sure that we keep our composure and stay strong.
Right.
But you also talked about making sure that you have support. And I think as women, we carry so much guilt. I know I do, being a single mother with 2 kids. And even though, my son may say, oh, it doesn't matter if you're not there, Yaya will be there or Papa's coming. But as mom, we always want to be there, but physically put extra strain on ourselves trying to be in multiple places at the same time. So
Yeah.
when you have a leader that is supportive of you and allows you to do those things without guilt, it just makes our day and just our career go a lot better, because that's just one less thing that we have to worry about, is letting our kids down because we feel like we have to be in 2 places at one time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know that feeling, and at the end of the day, like I said, time goes by so fast now. I don't want anyone to miss those moments. Those are precious moments. And kids may say, oh, mom, it doesn't matter. Maybe a little bit. It may matter to them. So if there's anything I can do here to make sure we don't miss those moments, I really try hard to make sure we don't.
That is awesome. That is the one thing that I don't want my kid to be on the couch for later in somebody's psychiatric hospital saying, well, my mom didn't come to that soccer game 6 years ago. So
Right. Absolutely.
definitely understand that. Okay. The next question I have for you is, can you share a specific example of a time where you had to advocate for a female?
Sure. Okay, so I can recall a time where I was a huge proponent that I was going to nurse for both of my children. And when I started working at Hyundai, my oldest son was 1, and I was 6 weeks pregnant with my now 18-year-old child. And so when I gave birth to him, I actually started Hyundai that week in a full-time role. And I wanted to be able to nurse. So at that time, I said I was going to do that regardless of how that looked. Back then, there were not a lot of specific laws on the table. There were some laws about, allowing for the break times and things like that to be accommodated. But as far as a safe space, it wasn't anything too popular back then when I was doing it, as far as, having a safe space for moms to be able to do that. So hence I come in here with my big black bag on my shoulder, and I go into the restroom, and I have my orange extension cord stretching all the way out the restroom. And of course, people were like, "What in the world is going on in there?" And in my mind, I'm like, this is my goal. I'm going to do this, and this is the space that I have to do it. This is what's going to take place. So, it was some interesting things that took place during that time. Security came in, was trying to break through a firewall and on a laptop computer. Or one time I was walking out and security kind of confiscated my bag and was like, well, we're going to check this and make sure you're not taking anything out. Hence, he was very surprised when he noticed what was in that bag. But it really didn't bother me, honestly. I just was doing what I wanted to do and what I had planned to do with my child at the time. And it was important to me. So I was like, I'm just going to make this work. It is what it is. I don't think I really noticed that it was an issue, and not an issue, but a concern, until I saw someone else having to do it. And I saw someone else walking in a similar restroom, and the look they had on their face. And that's when it took me to, this, we need to make some changes. So I went to my management, and I kind of, it is so weird. I don't know why I didn't complain while I was going through it. I think I was just moving so fast and doing so much that I just wasn't thinking. But I did go to my management and I talked to them about it. And when I talked to them, they were very open. And during that time, laws were coming into place that would make special accommodations for women to have a safe space. So not only, companies I worked with in the past, but a lot of places do now have accommodations for a safe space if you want to do that. And they also have break times available. So my current company does some things like that, and some companies I've worked with in the past. But just stepping up, not even realizing it was an issue. I was just going along with the flow because I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. Didn't even think about that there were even other options out there. But once I thought about it and I saw the expression of someone else going through it, uh, the company I was working for at the time was definitely accommodating. And we definitely have those things in place right now. So just by me speaking up, I was able to advocate for other females that want that opportunity to be able to do that for their child.
That's a great example. I remember working at Virginia College and had just had a baby and had an office that had this huge window right down this busy hallway where all the students would come. I used to take my pump out to the car every time I needed to pump and hook it up to the gas light thing and just pump in the car just so I could have that sense of peace. But I remember not being able to pump one time, it's probably going to be TMI, in the middle of a meeting. And then everything just starts coming down. I have these huge wet spots. And I know I cried for probably 45 minutes in the car, but just literally sat in the meeting with, just like this, and then walked to the car and just cried because I was like, this is ridiculous that I feel this much guilt trying to work and be a mom and provide for nourishment for my kid, and was working for a man at that moment that would not let me out of this meeting so I could go pump. So kudos to you for allowing that open space. It's so important. And again, one less thing that working mothers have to worry about in the workplace.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, what are some strategies that you have found to be effective in fostering a supportive environment for women in your professional circle?
In my professional circle, of course, I'll go back to what I mentioned earlier with the listening ear. And that has come actually with maturity and time on my side, being able to just stop and just listen. Just listen. Sometimes, those in my circle, they don't need answers. They don't need input. They don't need advice. They just need for you to just listen, and that's it. So I'm a fixer. So I've had to calm myself and just learn how to listen and be that person in my professional circle when someone just needs me to just do that and not fix it. I'm the same way here with my team. They all know if there's an issue, if they just need a listening ear, I'll do that. But if they need a fixer, I'll definitely do that also, or try my best to provide some sort of advice. But in my circle, I've noticed now, and I don't know how this has come about, but I have so many different, I guess, ages across generations, just generations of women that I speak with. They're in their 20s, they're in their 30s, they're in their 40s and their 50s. And I learned so much. My 20 generation crew, I I just sit back and I honestly listen to them a lot because I am still one that am open to learning. But they're such a feisty bunch and they're so smart and they know everything in the world that you need to know technology wise. Like I probably could have used them today to help me set this whole system up with WebEx on the computer. And I tell them that, when I'm listening to them and they're giving me advice or they're showing me how to work TikTok or something like that, I tell them thank you, because I don't know how to work this. I want to understand it, but thank you for showing me this. So just making sure they understand. You may take this as nothing, not a big deal to you, but it's a big deal for me because I don't understand it. So I make sure they feel appreciated. Then when I get to that group that's in their 30s, I don't know where you are in your life. You may be going through having kids and being in the workforce and sometimes just listening and giving just a little bit of advice, don't forget yourself, make sure you take time for you a little bit. And then when you get to that 40, 50-year-old range where you're becoming, possible empty nesters and
Mhm.
things with your body are changing and you're questioning, like, am I sane at times, like things are really off. Um, y- I have people in my group that, yeah, we have moments where we just have to be like, okay, I'm not crazy, right? Yeah, like I really am okay. But just generationally, I've had to sit back because I have quite a few in my circle, and I'm almost a different person for depending on the range of person that I'm not a different person, but I guess my interactions are different based off of who I'm talking to at the moment. But I'm
Mhm.
always trying to be supportive and I'm always trying to be encouraging. One thing I am is definitely a pusher. Anybody will tell you that has probably come across me. Well, I guess some, maybe. Um, I am a pusher. My kids know I'm a pusher. My husband knows I'm a pusher. My family, my close friends. If you tell me that you are going to do something and you have an idea, something like that, I'm gonna really push you. And I'm gonna ask you about it. And I'm gonna try to, give you resources or help you get to where you need to be. But I also surround myself with women in my life that are pushers. They
Mhm.
push me. So I have a group of ladies right now. Oh my God, it's some unbelievable women in this world. I mean, not only do they have full-time jobs, they're taking care of a family, but they got this whole uh TikTok whole group of people, millions of people following them. Some are on TV, some are writing books, some are doing just some amazing things. So
Mhm.
I keep a group of women. Well, I have always a group of women in my life as well that not only am I pushing, but they're pushing me
Mhm.
as well. So those are just a few ways that I kind of am kind of supportive with the circle, my professional circle that's just kind of around me.
You hit on something. Your tribe is so important. I have really realized that over probably the last 5 years. I too have a tribe that is a different range of ages.
Yeah.
I feel like my daughter and all of her friends are always keeping me up to date on everything new, the new terminologies, the new technology, everything. But I have a tribe in my life of women that have become friends for me, but they are doing amazing things, like you said, and they're inspiring me. And then just had a conversation with one of them the other day, and she's like, actually, you're inspiring me because you have still young kids and you're doing all this different stuff with boards. And I just inherited a team of 10 amazing women, but they range in all different ages. They range in management styles, and trying to figure out that and still get up and comb my hair and brush my teeth every single day and be consistent with self-care. And it's a lot. So your tribe is important. And for any woman out there that does not have a tribe, I literally don't know how they're making it, because yes, it's great to have a great partner at home, but my tribe of females is what gives me the sanity and gives me the energy to put up with the man that I'm about to venture off into this life with. But my tribe is my sanity for real.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing like a good tribe on your side. I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yes. Um, Question number 5. How do you promote diversity in recruitment processes to ensure a balanced workforce? And that's diversity in ethnicity and, of course, gender.
Um, I think you really have to be intentional with it. Um, and whatever company that you're working for, that has to be at the forefront. Um, when you're in those recruiting practices and you're trying to figure out how to get that balanced workforce, of course, there are so many different things that you can do to ensure that your pool does have that diversity included in there. Some things I would recommend, of course, is making sure you're attending those places that will increase get your pool at a higher amount with the diversity. If you're trying to, find some engineers of a different background, join some women organizations that support women engineers. If you're looking for a diverse background where you're looking for maybe a group. There are certain schools around here like ASU, Alabama State, Tuskegee, that can provide you with that type of student, if that's what you're looking for. Military fairs is another thing that is a diverse range, a group of people that will make sure your pool is definitely where it needs to be.
And I can vouch for that. You had us going to a lot of different things to make sure that we had a diverse pool of people when you needed it. So I can definitely say that Hyundai does a great job of making sure that you're well known in the community, but also hitting those different pockets in the community to make sure that those job opportunities are available to all.
Absolutely.
And then my last question before we get into the question and answer portion is, in your experience, what are some successful approaches to empowering women to take on leadership roles?
Leadership role. First, you really need to have a good grasp as to what a leadership role, what it really is. Um, I'm lucky that I did have some really good mentors that I watched and I looked up to, especially when I started moving up into management. So I was lucky in that way that I had that, but you really have to make sure that you really want to be in leadership. I mean, with leadership, it's just not the title, this big fancy title, like a long title, whatever. It comes with the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, you got to be able to understand how you're going to take care of your people and motivate your people. You got to be able to understand that you're not going to be able to please everybody, and you're not going to be able to fix everything. That was one of my downfalls. I'm just a natural fixer and I want to fix it all. You got to learn how to do your patience and your time management and your delegation. Um, and you got to do that with all positive energy, honestly. But being in a leadership role it's rare that you have a bad day. So you are the pulse of the team. So therefore, it's almost like being at home. If mom is not doing right, ain't nobody else doing right. So it's almost as though, when you get in this leadership role, I find at times that even if I'm having a bad day at home, nobody at work would ever know about it, because it's my responsibility to make sure my team is functioning at a level that they should be able to function at, and not be worried about me or me being off on that day. So I try to stay consistent in how I work as a leader. So going back to your question is how do you empower women to do that? I have honest conversations with them. I have true conversations with them. If my husband was on this call, he'd laugh right now. I have a bad habit of not telling people what they should do, but if I see some sort of little nick or talent in you, then I'll be like, you should probably do that, or you should probably do this. I could just be a stranger and I just come up with some sort of thing that you should probably do. Well, when I come across women that I feel have that leadership in them, that leaders that just has that something in them that I feel that they will be a good leader, that's when I kind of take them and I share my stories, and I provide them with resources, and I push them toward that if that's what they want to do. But I'm also honest with them in what comes with it. At times it's not an easy thing to do. At times it can almost get lonely, when especially when you're in an HR role and you're in a leadership role. So it's one of those things that I promote it, and I push those to be leaders by providing the resources and sharing my stories, but I also want them to really know what is involved in it. And I'll also mention one thing about sharing stories. I'll never forget one time I was in Walmart. I think this was probably last year sometime. And a young lady was working right there in the little area where the gloves were. And I was looking for something, and she turned around, and she looked at me, and she stared, and I was like, does she know me? I don't think I know her. Maybe she worked at Hyundai. I don't know. And she stopped, and she said, I saw you on TV this week. And I said, oh, okay. She said, you're promoting a job fair. And I said, yep, I had been on TV, earlier in the week promoting job fairs that we had coming up. So I had been on several stations. And she said, you are a manager. She said, I could never, ever, get to where you are. And I looked at her and I said, well, why would you say that? She's like, that must take a lot. So I think it's also important to share your story. See, what this young lady didn't know, and what I sat there and told her while she was putting gloves on that shelf, was that I grew up in a very rural area. I grew up in an area where college was not an option. I was supposed to get a full-time job when I finished school. So I was the first one to go to college on both sides of my family. While I was in college, did I work full-time? Absolutely. It wasn't because I was working to possibly go to Daytona Beach. It was because I worked because I had to.
Mm-hmm.
I told her, once I graduated with this electrical engineering technology degree, I'm like, what am I going to do with this? I didn't like that role. And I'm a people person. I love talking to people. I love encouraging. I love helping. And I landed into a recruiting role. I told her all of my things on how I got to Montgomery and how I got to the place where I'm currently working now. And when I started here at Hyundai, how I wrote down some goals on the back of my sheet, on the back of my offer letter. I didn't have a whole lot of mentors, really in my life. So one mentor I had told me to always write down goals and strike them down and cross them out as you're getting done. And I told her how one of my goals was to move up in management. And I did that. And by the time I was done with her, she was like, I would have never thought that you grew up like I'm growing up. And I said, I absolutely did. So don't you ever sit here and tell me that you can't have what I have, because you didn't know my story. That's my story. So I think it's important to always just share your story and where you came from, because it not only promotes women into leadership, but it promotes them into, getting to a whole different level in life. It doesn't have to be necessarily leadership. It could be something way different from leadership, but just sharing that story, so they may see me on TV, but you don't understand what it took to get there. Yeah, I started one place, but now I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have the absolute exact same thing. One other thing I'll say, and my kids will probably get mad about it. They're probably gonna be like, Mom, I can't believe you're saying this, but in empowering women to be in leadership roles and empowering women to, get to that next step or get to whatever it is that they want to do. In this day and time, you've got to figure out how to take your time back. You've got to absolutely figure out how to take your time back. When I grew up, we didn't have social media. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have internet. We had that little dial-up thing that probably came up in my early 30s when we dialed into the internet. We didn't have so many distractions that took us away from possibly doing what we needed to do to get that leadership role, or doing what we needed to do to finish school, or doing what we needed to do to get that master's degree, or doing what we needed to do to get to that next step. We have so many things that take our time away. And I preach that to everybody I come in contact with right now. Social media is a good thing. Trust me, I love TikTok, and I hate to admit that. But right now, in order for me to just finish some things of my own, I've had to limit myself to 5 minutes of Facebook, 5 minutes of TikTok a day, so I can continue to advance, so I can continue to get to where I want to be in life. So, I know that was a long answer, and I'm so sorry, but
Perfect.
I'm a huge proponent of just sharing your journey. And if sharing my journey will help someone else, I'll absolutely do it. So that young lady in Walmart, I haven't seen her since, but when I left there that day, she definitely was like, I think I can do something different. And I was like, you just because you saw me on TV doesn't mean you can't be the same person. You just didn't know my story and where I came from. So that's my answer.
I love it. I love everything you said. I think one, women have to be able to tap into their own potential.
Right,
And in that case with the lady at Walmart, they see you now, but they definitely don't know what we went through to get here.
right.
So sharing your story is very, very important. Making sure that us as women know that we have the potential. Men are born with that ability to just have that confidence, and it
Absolutely.
kind of makes me sick. So women have to work extra hard because I think all of our lives we've been told how to run a household, how to be a mother, how to be humble. But men come up with a different set of rules. And so for us, we have to learn how to own our confidence and just be bold with it and know that we have the potential to do anything that we want to do, which is something I'm really, really working hard with, making sure that my daughter understands. I bring her to SHRM meetings sometimes. I bring her to different events so she can see me speak and see me do these different things so
Absolutely.
that she knows I'm capable of more than preparing her favorite salmon and Alfredo sauce. There's a lot of things that I can do outside of running a household. And I think it's important that we expose our girls to that. But also being able to share your story is definitely something that we have to do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I agree with you so much on that confidence. I recently had some students here from Tuskegee, and one of the questions that one of the young ladies asked me was, if you had to go back to your 20s, what would you change?
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't even thought about that, but confidence was it. I came
Mm-hmm.
out and and I knew where I wanted to go. I just couldn't figure out how to get there, and I just didn't lack the confidence. So right now,
Mm-hmm.
it has taken me years to get to that point, but there's not many people that can tell me at this point in my life that if I really want something that I'm not going to be able to get to it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a vain thing at all. By no means is that. It's just growing into that maturity where I'm comfortable with the confidence and I finally have it. But it took a while to get there. Yeah, I agree. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't born into it. It took some time to actually get there.
Yep, no, I agree. I think in my 20s, I was still trying to figure out who I was. And then I became a mother at 26 and still didn't know who I was, but now I was somebody's mama and somebody's wife. So I really did not figure out who Sierra was until I was about 33. And at that point, I was married with two kids.
Yes.
Um, and so I think that if a young girl can figure out who she is earlier rather than later, then her career is just going to skyrocket. But for me, it took me a while to figure out who Sierra wanted to be when she grew up. And I was well in my 30s when I figured that out.
I so understand.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was amazing, and you definitely shared some awesome stories. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or anything that they would like to say to Delecia? Unmute yourselves. Janelle, you might want to put yours in the chat. We still can't hear you. Unless, let me see if I can unmute you, maybe. Nope. It won't let me unmute you. So you're going to have to type it in the chat and I can read it out for you. While we're waiting on Janelle, anybody else have any questions or comments? I saw some hand claps of praise, so that means we did okay. I see Janelle put on the glasses, so she's typing. But I definitely think this has been a great conversation.
I
And
absolutely
I
agree.
wasn't expecting to learn more about you today, but I did. I did. I thought I knew you pretty well. Janelle's still typing. This must be a long question. So, Delecia, I know that you have, how long have you been at Hyundai? How many years has it been?
It's been 18 years full time.
18 years. Okay. I think I put 12 in your bio, but it was 18.
Yes, but I'm coming up.
So,
Um, let's see, really be 20 years. I started off as a contractor in August, but 18 years full time.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is very long time.
And I know the sky is the limit. So Dr. Tanya Lowe said, great job, Delecia. Thank you for sharing your story. She has to run, but she's going to catch up with you soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Um, and I know you recently, well, I say recently, but it's been a couple of years now. I've got a new director of HR for Hyundai.
Yes.
And from what I know, he has definitely been what I would call a sponsor or an advocate for women in the workplace.
Yes.
So I know Hyundai has several managers that are that way. So kudos to Hyundai for always being at the forefront of that. Okay. Janelle said, hey, Delecia, you talked about working with a multi-generational and diverse staff. With the experiences you have endured, what would you tell your younger 20-year-old self entering into the workforce? Great question.
Younger 20-year-old self entering into the workforce. Probably enjoy life. I know during that 20-year-old stage, you're probably trying to, get to climb that corporate ladder, get to where you want to be. In my 20s, I married late. So I would say doing more probably with me during that time. And of course I did do me, but just enjoying myself, being comfortable completely with me, being okay with me, because life will get busy. And then before you know it, and I'm so grateful it happened this way with me. When I married in my 30s, I was ready to be a mom. I was ready to be a wife, and I was ready to give up a lot of me because that will happen. And I was so okay with it. And I loved every moment, honestly, of being, with my boys and with my husband. But if I had to go back to that 20-year-old girl, I'd probably be like, just be more creative, more open to adventure, more if I had the money, more travel, more just enjoying, what life had to offer during that time.
That's awesome. And I think that's something we would probably all tell ourselves to really, really get to know who we are, because in turn, that's going to make us better wives, better mothers, and better employees because we have a true sense of self.
Right.
I know authenticity is a word that we use a lot here lately, but I did not even have that word in my vocabulary in my 20s. I didn't know who I was, what I was. I'm trying to think who was popular back then, maybe SWV.
Right.
So I was probably trying to be one of their band members. I had no clue what Sierra was doing. It took me 5 years to graduate college, so that says a lot. I was doing a lot, and it was not necessarily life oriented. So definitely have a better sense of self in your 20s is so important because it's going to carry you a long way.
Agree.
Any more questions from anyone?
I have a question. This is Janet.
Hey, Janet.
Hey, my question is, what are you telling your current self? Because we're still here, we're still having to move forward, we're still having to work through our day-to-day lives personally and professionally. So what do you tell your current self for your future growth and development that you have?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm to the point to where it's almost like one moment at a time. I've gotten to a point to where I've I guess I've witnessed death. I used to say years ago, life is short. Life is just real short, and I just say it. Like whatever. After having loss, after having sickness, I now know. I definitely now know that life is short. I'm in my 50s now. So I'm telling my current self now that every bit of time that I have absolutely matters. So I'm not a proponent of wasting time. That's why I put myself on that 5-minute TikTok and that 5-minute Facebook, because there's some other goals that I want to achieve, and I want to achieve those goals and not let them be buried away. So I'm constantly telling myself to enjoy the moment, enjoy where you are and the space that you're in when you're in it. When my kid walked through that door from college, I put the cell phone down. And if he gives me enough time, I'm all in. I'm all theirs, you know. When my husband and I are going somewhere, I'm all in. I'm all there, you know. If I could just be sitting outside sometimes right now, and I know this is going to sound a little off, but I'm just trying to become one with nature a little bit more and enjoying the space of being outside and watching the clouds, listening to the birds. I know that may sound a little bit strange, but at this moment, at this point in my life, I'm 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 not saying that I lost myself, but I love this time in my life. I honestly do. Um, just being able to refine yourself again and having time for just you. Um, it's just an amazing time in my life, honestly. So if I had to say anything to this woman right now, it's just enjoying the space that you're in, taking advantage of all the time that you have. Um, and getting some of those things that you said you were going to get done before you don't have time to do them.
I think that's a great answer. And thank you, Janet, for that question, because now you're on the side of life where you have raised your boys and you have this time back to really invest in you. I love my kids, but I'm counting the calendar down. I'm ready to get them out of the house so that I can have some me time. And I want to see them be and flourish as adults and see what they're going to do. But you've earned this time to invest in you. So it's definitely your time to shine. I get caught up in TikTok TV. So I too have had to put some limits on myself because there's some books that I actually want to read and do some self-development in that space. And I can't do that if I'm on TikTok scrolling all night long. So
Right.
I definitely agree. Invest in you, enjoy the moment. And I love the nature thing. I'm ready for it to get warm outside again so I can go back on my back patio with my cigar and my wine and my music and see my hummingbirds. I have missed them. So I'm ready to put the patio furniture out and spend my time outside.
That is my most favorite spot in my home, is just being out there. And I don't need music. I don't need anything. Just being out there. So yeah, I agree with you.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, thank you so much. It is 12:46, and we just really, really appreciate you taking this time.
Sure.
Oh, we have one more question. I'm sorry. Real quick. Hello, Delecia. My name is Latricia Berry, and I definitely enjoyed your story. How important is it to have a mentor to grow as a leader? And that'll be our last question.
Got it. Um, I definitely think it's important. I did have one. I've actually had several. Um, and I'll mention that Sharon Rose is one of my mentors. Um, and not only just from just watching her and everything that she's been able to accomplish. Um, I am still learning. Even at this current age, I am still learning, and I'm still open to learning. So that's where the mentorship role is valuable and important, in my opinion, especially if you're trying to climb that corporate ladder. You have to be willing and open to learn and listen to what that mentor has gone through, and the stories that they're willing to share and the guidance that they're able to provide. So I definitely think it's worthwhile to have one to kind of help you get to that point.
100% agree. Well, thank you again. This has been wonderful. For everybody that's on, if you are a Sherman Montgomery member, this will be uploaded and sent out so you can listen to it again and also share it with others that might not have been able to join us today. We thank you all so much for hopping on with us today, and we will see you next Wednesday, same time, same place. Thank you again, Delecia.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.